Hey guys, it's Olivia here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and I'm here to give you the second part of my November wrap-up. I read 30 books in the month of November, and if you haven't seen the first video where I talk about the first 15 books, you're going to want to go back and do that because I read quite a lot of 5 stars in the beginning of the alphabet, and I mentioned them all here, there, go check that out. But I am going to talk about the other 15 now. Let's get right down to the books. We were on the letter P. So for the letter P, I read The Paper Magician by Charles N, I'm guessing, Holmberg, and that was for the prompt of Hestia, which was to read the first book in a series. This is the first one in the Paper Magician series, and I was pleasantly surprised, guys. This book was so good. I can't believe I've had it on my Kindle for so long. So this one follows a main character who has gone to this magic school. She went on a scholarship because she's from a poor background and they usually can't afford it. She was very much wanting to be a metal magician who could work with like metal and all that really cool stuff, but because of a shortage in paper magicians, she gets assigned to be an apprentice under this paper magician, and she thinks paper magic is quite lame because, guys, it's paper. But when she goes there, she discovers she can do so much more with paper than she ever thought possible, like all these origami, making paper come to life, reading books and making the illusions come to life kind of magic, which is just epic. And yes, things are going well until in the beginning of her apprenticeship this villain comes, steals her, teacher's heart and disappears. He's gonna die in like a couple of days. She's made a paper heart and put it in his chest, but paper doesn't last long in a human body, guys, so she's got a time limit to get back his heart. It was very good. I loved the world building. I loved the idea of paper magic. It was so much fun, and the main character had so much passion. The book was a bit whimsical at one point, and it was quite whimsical, but it was good whimsical, if that makes any sense. Then for Q, I read Queen of Hearts by Colleen Oakes, and that was for the prompt of Hera, which is to read a book with royalty in it. I didn't like this book at all. It was so badly written. It's an Alice in Wonderland retelling which is told from the point of view of the Queen of Hearts, the Red Queen, instead, and she is really abused by her father, and there's this whole thing going on where he doesn't want to give up the throne and doesn't want to let her be queen, which leads to a lot of drama and a lot of fights going down. But the book was just so badly written. It was quite juvenile writing, like it was juvenile writing, but not to the point where I could even recommend it to the younger side of YA, but that was just badly written. The romance happened too fast. It just all was not good. It was just not good, guys, which was disappointing because it had quite a promising idea and the cover's beautiful. For R, I read Red Rising by Pierce Brown, and this was another 5-star read, and it also fit the prompt of Hebe, I don't know how you pronounce that. Anyway, and it was to read a young adult book. It was so good, guys. This is a sci-fi, kind of dystopian sci-fi, where you've got like categories, and red is the lowest category, and if you're red you live underground in Mars and you're mining so that the people from Earth can come and inhabit Mars, and you just do that for your whole life, for the good of humanity. However, something happens where the main character, Darrow, finds out that all that they've been told is a lie. Mars is already habitable, and it's just the upper colours, like the golds, who get to live on the surface, and the reds are being enslaved and mining so that they can keep living their perfect life on top of Mars. He is going to be sent to infiltrate the upper ranks and bring them down from the inside, basically. But before he can do that, he has to go through a kind of initiation, which is next level intense. If I want to describe this book, it would just be The Hunger Games, but about 110% better, in my opinion. And the sci-fi elements were done so well, and the characters, I fell in love with so many, Severo especially, but I also really liked Mustang and Rook. I just felt for the characters. The plot was really suspenseful. I didn't know what was going to happen. It was always intense. You do have to get over the first 20-30 pages where they just throw way too much sci-fi speech at you and phrases, but after that it lessens. Trust me, it lessens and the book only gets better. Then for S, I read The Secret Life of Bees by Sumo, and I buddy read this one with my best friend, and the prompt was to, what was it? It was for Artemis, which was to read a book with an animal on the cover. Guys, there's bees on the cover. There's like some bees flying around. So I read The Secret Life of Bees and I really, really enjoyed this one. It's about this young girl. It's set at the time of segregation, and it's about this young girl who's white and she has a very mean father, and the only one that she really likes is her nanny who lives with them, and she has grown up believing that she was the one who shot her mother accidentally and killed her. Whether she has or hasn't, you have to read to find out. And what happens is Rosaline, who is the help in her house, gets arrested when she's trying to vote for the first time, and then she decides to break her, the little girl decides to break Rosaline out of jail, and they're going to run away together. That's what they do. And they end up living on this beehive plantation with these 3 black women. And yes, it was so beautiful. It's very a character-driven story, so it's very slow-moving and transformative. Like, Lily, the main character, who's that little girl, goes through this metamorphosis of how racism, exists, and how it really limits people, but also how being black is not ugly, it's beautiful, and they have their own freedoms in their own ways. And it was just such a really woke but slow, gentle, there's so much beautiful writing, beautiful nature descriptions. It was an emotional book, but it was a beautifully and well done book. I can understand why this one is a bestseller. The ending was a bit too quickly and easily resolved, a bit rushed, but other than that, I loved this. And then for T, I read The Taming of the Shrew by Shakespeare, and that also fit the prompt for Hermes of Mythothon, which is to read a book set in a country that's not your own. I believe that one is set somewhere in Italy, so that checked off the list. This one is about these 2 sisters. One of them is really horrible, and one of them is like an angel, and the angel is not allowed to be married until her older sister is married first, but everybody's like, who's gonna marry this horrible, shrew, mean, cruel person? And they just set her up with someone and she's off, but the person says like, oh, I'm gonna tame her and make her like this lovely, lovable wife who's just gonna do everything I say, and yeah, that's that. Guys, this play made me so angry because Shakespeare is usually so woke. He's got these really important themes that make you really think about the topic, even though he wrote them all the way back, whenever. He's still, like, the themes still resonate with people today and are still important today. But for this one, it was just so anti-feminist and backwards. I was like shook that someone who wrote Othello and wrote like the Merchant of Venice could write something like The Taming of the Shrew. It just didn't like translate in my brain. I don't understand how he could write something so horrible, and I don't know if it was purposefully written. Like, you can never know his intention. Was it written to disgust us so much that the shrew is tamed so that we think, oh, we shouldn't do this to women, or was it not meant that way and it's just a play by men for men? I really don't know. We will never know, but I couldn't enjoy reading this one for that reason, and that's that. And for you, I read Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and this also fit for the Zeus prompt, which meant I had to read a book which was at least 400 pages long. This one was like 480 something, so that fit fine. I really wanted to love this one more than I did because the hype around this one is crazy. So this girl lives in next to this wood, and the wood is dangerous and magical, and people who go in never come back out. There's also this really powerful magician called the Dragon, and the dragon comes, well, his name is actually Dragon, but Dragon comes and takes a child, a teenage girl, on their 18th birthday every 10 years, and that girl goes to his manor, isn't seen by people, returns 10 years later, and then leaves the village and never comes back. So she gets chosen to go with him for 10 years, and she's like, well, what are we gonna have here? But it turns out there's a lot more to Dragon than they all assume, that there's a threat, like the wood is a very dangerous and big threat, but there's also a political threat, and yes, lots of things go down. I will say that the magical system is amazing. I love how magic is described in this one. I love her writing style. I love the fairy tale-esque, fantasy-esque kind of combination, but I thought the plot was just like, it was just okay. It was kind of slow moving and a bit weird, but like in a good way. So it was just an okay. I was quite indifferent to the plot. I did not like the characters. The main character herself is okay, I didn't really care about her, but Dragon, no. If you like Mr. Darcy, you might like Dragon. I hate Mr. Darcy, so I hated the dragon. Quite a lot of problematic moments here. For example, in the beginning there's a attempted sexual assault done, and Dragon just says like, well, if you didn't want him to sexually assault you, why did you wear those clothes? And I was like, but wait! And then that's just left there, and I thought, that is wrong on so many levels. And it's just glossed over, and I'm like, it's not okay, and it impacted my enjoyment of this book. The V-Girl by Maya Roberts, this one was a reread, and it also fit the prompt of Iris, which is to read a book with your favourite colour on it. And here-ish, there's the shade of orange that I really like. I love sunset orange, or burnt orange, and there's that shade there, so I counted this one for that. The V-Girl, it's so hard to describe. It's a dystopian book, and it's set in a world where rape is legal. You can understand already how that's quite problematic, but it discusses it in a very, very deep and well done way. I can't actually think of a young adult book. It's explicit, but I can't think of a young adult / new adult-ish book that discusses consent, rape, love, and sex in a better or more clear-cut way where I agree with all of it and I don't find any of it problematic. And it's so well done. The themes in this one are so well done. The writing is done so well. The romance that happens, quite a lot of sexual tension, and it was like, whew, I was reading it and literally fanning myself like this because it was hot, and I love the main characters, so I just really enjoyed rereading this one. For W, I read Winter Song by S.J. Jones, and this also fit the prompt of Aphrodite, which is to read a book with a beautiful cover. The cover's beautiful, guys. The insides, not so much. So this one follows this girl who loves composing and music, and there's this folklore about the Goblin King and how he is mischievous, and when the Goblin King kidnaps her sister and brings her down to the underworld, she follows to try and rescue her. And lots of things end up happening. She ends up in the underworld as well, and some romance starts blossoming. But this book was just not very good. There was no climax, like it was all going somewhere but it just never went there, and then it just kind of stayed shallow, and that was quite boring. I never really cared about the characters. The main character's a bit whiny and pathetic, and then she spends like half of this book begging this person to sleep with her, and I was like, this is just cringeworthy to read about. And then when he does, she's like, I am transformed, I am a woman now, and I was like, girl, no, it's not a thing that will help you find yourself and your identity, and you've just suddenly got this new perspective on life now that you've slept with someone. That's not the kind of message we want to promote to teens, and that's not how it goes. So I just couldn't get with this book. Like, I love that she loved music so much, and I love that it featured a lot, but the goblin folklore was not developed or dived into enough. The world building was quite pathetic. It was not a book for me. X was a wild card because it's very hard to find a book that fits X. I read The Sign of Fall by Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle because I needed to read it for uni, and that also fit the prompt of, I don't know how to say this guy's name, Hephaestus? In the mythothon, which is to have a book with a disabled character. Now in the BBC series of Sherlock Holmes, John Watson loses his cane because it's all mental, like his disability is all mental. However, in the books, he actually needs his cane. So I decided to include that because he actually has a lame leg and needs a cane. And The Sign of Fall, another book I hated because it was just so racist. It was racist through and through, and the descriptions, like, when it comes to reading books that are racist and set in the past, I don't enjoy it, but I can still read through it because I can think, oh, it's set in those times, and it's this, it's that, it's not aimed at me, it's not aimed at the modern day. If this was written now, it wouldn't be like that. But guys, the way he describes the native people, the Indians, and just anyone who's black in that book is so disgusting, and he sounds so revolted in his writing that I became offended reading the book. If I didn't have to read it for uni, I would have totally DNF'd it, and that's saying something because I do not DNF books, and that book is not even that long. Why I reread The Yellow Wallpaper, because by Charlotte Perkins by Charlotte Gilbert Perkins, because that's the only book I have with Y, so I had no other option. It's the third time I'm ever rereading it. It's the second time I'm rereading it this year, but it was the first time I read it on audiobook, so that was a nice difference. And it also fit the prompt for Hercules, which was read a popular book, and I feel like nearly, like in uni, everybody references this book all the time. If you do English literature, I feel like you've read this book at some point. So it's about this girl who is ill, and so she's confined to her bedroom, and her husband comes and goes, but is just always saying stay in your bedroom. And this bedroom has this yellow wallpaper, and because she's trapped in this room, she starts to see a woman in the, like, moving in the wallpaper, and she starts to see the wallpaper moving, and the question is she getting crazy because of the fact that she's confined, or is it already her illness? And it's this really creepy book, and it's really good, guys. I don't even mind rereading it. It said I read The Zigzag Girl by Ellie Griffith, which was a mystery novel, and that also fit the prompt for Hydra, which is to read a book with more than one point of view, and this has more than one point of view. It's a murder mystery set in this gang of magicians. Now, these magicians have all worked together in the war as well, and they've all gone their separate ways and become different people. However, this person or somebody is going through and murdering them all using these magic tricks going wrong, and it's like, the idea of the mystery is really good, but the book is written in such a boring way. It was so slow paced. Things happened at the beginning, and then it got quite suspenseful, and things happened at the end. But for the 75% in the middle, a whole lot of nothing was happening, and I was just bored, and I was reading like, ugh. So yeah, not enjoyable. Okay, so that's it for the HSA Readathon and Mythothon books, but now we've got the 4 extra books that I read here to talk about. So let's get to them. I'll start with the one that's probably going to interest you the most, and that is I finally read A Court of Thorns and Roses. No, A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas, and I forgot this actually fit one last Mythothon prompt, and that was to read a Hades book. And Hades was to read a book that you got for free, and this was gifted to me by Maya Roberts for one of my explicit scene videos. So, A Court of Mist and Fury. So the first one, it's a, like, very loose Beauty and the Beast retelling, where there's humans and there's Fae, and Feyre gets, Feyre kills this Fae in the human world, which is a major crime, so she gets dragged to the Fae world, and she is just forced to live there, but she finds out that a lot more is going on than she thinks, that's above and beyond her own struggles. There's this evil queen who's kind of reigning in the Fae world, and yes, lots and lots of things happen in the first book, and then this is the second book, and I was quite indifferent to the first book, but I enjoyed this one a lot more, and I was just so happy that we finally got to go to Night Court, because everybody kept it such a mystery in the first one, and I was like, okay, I want to see, and it sounds so beautiful. I also think this one did a very good job of showing feminist themes, in showing a realistic post-traumatic stress disorder in young adult, because, you know, in young adult the main characters always go through these really stressful and like mind-shattering situations, but they just seem to bounce back so quickly. I'm glad that Feyre didn't bounce back so quickly. The world building was a lot more convincing this time. I loved it. The writing varied between very good writing and overwriting still. I still think Sarah J Maas has a long way to go with her writing, personally. And I loved the friendship in this one. Like, I loved the friendship, like Cassian, Azriel, Amren. I loved all those characters more. I love them all, and I love seeing their dynamic. There's a lot of romance in this one, and the romance takes over the book a little bit too much. I like the idea of the couple together, but this book could have done with a few less 100 pages of all this love, romance, ridiculousness. Like, it's not ridiculous. I understand why she includes it, but it got a bit too much for me. Also, I wouldn't classify this as young adult, I would classify this as new adult. There's quite a lot of explicit scenes, and as someone who reads new adult, these explicit scenes, some of them were really steamy, and I was like, whew, then some of them were just so cringeworthy to read, and I was like, that's not how you write this kind of scene. But I get why people are hyped about this series now. Then this was another 5-star read for me. Absolutely loved it, and that was Rhapsodic by Thalassa. It's the first one in the Bargain series, and I read this straight after reading A Court of Mist and Fury, and all I can really say is that this is A Court of Mist and Fury, but better. And better written. So this one is set in the, it's kind of like there's a human world and there's the other world where Fae rule, you see, and then there's the human world. And the Fae world has 4 courts, I'm not even joking. Day Court, Night Court, fauna court and flora court. Like, you see the similarities. But the main character of this one is a siren who lives in the human world, and her siren is kind of like an alter ego. It's so cool. So she's human for the most part, but then she can activate her siren by singing, and then, you know, sirens, you have to do what they say. But also her siren is a very sexual character, because, you know, sirens and sex are always related. So it's like when she gets turned on, like, the siren in her comes out. She always refers to herself as I, and then like the siren as the siren, so it's like an alter ego, and I just love that for some reason. King of Night Court is also called the bargainer, and the bargainer makes deals with you, and if he makes you a deal, you get one bead, right? And he makes you repay those deals. So you can say, I want this body to disappear because I've killed someone. He gives you a bead, he does the deed, but when he needs to cash it in, he can cash it in whatever way he likes. The main character of this one has 322 beads. That's a lot of deals. And she never thought the bargainer was going to come back to redeem them, but he comes back and he starts cashing them in. But there's a lot more going on in the other world than she realised. This book was just so good. The romance, like I said, the romance scenes in A Court of Mist and Fury could have used improving, and in this one she does them perfectly. They were so steamy and intense. Yes, like A Court of Mist and Fury, the romance does take over the plot a little bit, but I didn't even care because these two characters had such great dynamic, and we also get to see some of their past with some of their future. It alternates between some of their past with the present day, alternates between the two, which was done very well. And I also feel like the actual plot was majorly creepy and a great setup for the rest of the series. I just love this one through and through and raced through it in a day, even though it's like 400 something pages. I also had to read, actually this was the first one I finished in November, but it's one of the last ones I'm mentioning, and that is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. Last month, link to that up there and down below, I read The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, and I'd actually read half of this one, then read the whole Moonstone, and then I read the other half of this one. I had to read it for class, and it was good at the beginning, and it was very interesting as a Victorian mystery, but then it just dragged, guys. It dragged in the middle, and then the end was good again, and it was a little bit predictable. It's mostly about this guy who is an artist, and he goes to work at this house where he's training this very lovely girl, and on the way there he stops in the road and he sees this woman dressed in white, and she looks like a ghost. He helps her get to where she needs to go, and then people die, and there's all these money problems. There's this very suspicious guy marrying one of the people he works with, who he also has consequently fallen in love with, and it's just a lot of, it's really good, but it's too long. And the last book that I read is a last one. We're going to end on Shakespeare, and that is Twelfth Night by Shakespeare. And I had to read this one for class, and it's basically a play set around the 12 days before Christmas, where lots of mischief and mayhem goes on. There's lots of gender and sexuality questioning in this one. There's quite a bit of girls dressing up as guys, and disguises, and people falling in love with people who are of the same gender, but it's actually a girl dressed up as a boy, but then, you know, the other person doesn't know that when they're falling for them, and lots of like love shenanigans. It's quite like A Midsummer Night's Dream in that way. I thought it was a decent play. I didn't love it like crazy, but I do appreciate that he's bringing up these questions of gender and sexuality in that time. Like, yes, and it's quite funny, and there's some fun things about it, but I do think that Twelfth Night would be a play that's better to see visually than it is to read, and I'm looking forward to watching an adaptation of it. Whew, guys, so that's all the books that I read in the month of November. I still can't believe it, 30 books. Never doing that again. I just don't think I can. But yes, it was so fun to do these two readathons. If I've been talking to you on Twitter, thank you so much for talking with me and encouraging me, and also everybody who commented on my Insta stories like, you can do this, when I got to the end and I was like, I cannot do this. Thank you for supporting me. Please let me know in the comment section down below, what's your worst read in the month of November? Which doesn't necessarily have to be bad, but the one you rated the least. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button to see more, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!